Morbid Facts, Part 659. In the 1990s, Belgium was shaken by the horrific case of Marc Dutroux, a convicted predator who, after early release from prison, built a hidden soundproof dungeon beneath his home. In 1995, he kidnapped two 8-year-old girls named Julie and Melissa and locked them inside the chamber. Later that year, he was jailed for several months after stealing a car and left the girls trapped in the basement. Dutroux claimed he told his wife to feed them, but she never did, and the girls slowly starved to death in total darkness. When police finally searched the home 1 year later, they found their bodies buried in the yard along with two more victims, teenage girls that Dutroux had drugged, abused, and murdered. Investigators had previously searched the home but missed the hidden cell, ignoring repeated warnings and reports of screams from neighbors. The public was completely outraged as over 300,000 people marched silently through Brussels in what became known as the White March, Belgium's largest protest since World War II. Morbid Facts, Part 660. When Alexander the Great died in 323 BC at the age of 32, his body reportedly showed no signs of decomposition for 6 days, astonishing the ancient Greeks and fueling the belief that he was a god. But modern medical experts have proposed a much darker explanation. Alexander may have suffered from Guillain-Barré syndrome, a rare neurological disorder that causes full body paralysis while leaving the person mentally aware. If true, it means he may have been mistakenly declared dead while still conscious, and was ultimately buried alive, fully aware of what was happening but unable to move or speak. In 1969, the Black Panthers launched a free breakfast program that fed thousands of hungry kids before school in the poorest black communities. But J. Edgar Hoover and the FBI saw it as a threat to national security, apparently fearing that it would make the Black Panthers look too humane. So in response, in multiple cities, police raided kitchens at dawn, tearing apart food supplies, and in some cases even urinating on the groceries, making it clear that feeding black children was more threatening than letting them starve. Most Morbid Facts, Parts 500 to 600. Adult star Emily Willis was left permanently disabled after a medical crisis at a rehab facility treating her for ketamine addiction. She reportedly suffered a heart attack and wasn't hospitalized in time, leading to 40 minutes of CPR, severe oxygen loss, and irreversible brain damage. After 2 months in a vegetative state, she now suffers from locked-in syndrome, a condition where the patient is conscious but can't move any muscles except the eyes. These photos from 1999 show Columbine student Dustin Gordon after being told the shooters were his good friends Eric Harris and Dylan Klebold. Dustin was reportedly a very nice kid and couldn't fathom his friends killing 12 innocent students. In 2004, Gail Laverne Grimes died in the hospital after surgeons spent 6 exhausting hours trying to separate her skin from a couch. The 500-pound woman had been sitting on her living room sofa for 6 years to the point where her skin had completely fused to the fabric. Rescue workers had to transport Gail in her couch using a trailer, and she ended up dying while still attached to it. This 15th century Italian painting is the earliest known depiction of the guinea worm, a parasite that enters through dirty water and grows into a 3-foot-long worm that painfully erupts from the skin. Splashing water on the wound eases the burning but triggers the worm to release more larvae, only repeating the cycle. In 1986, there were over 3.5 million cases, but the numbers have dropped off significantly ever since. In 2010, a Russian man died after being voluntarily buried alive by his friends. He was simply trying to overcome his irrational fear of dying when the ground suddenly caved in and crushed him. Grape had become such a big problem across Africa that a South African doctor invented Grape-X in 2005. It's a device with sharp teeth that gets inserted into a woman's private area. Any man who attempts to grape her will impale himself on the teeth and must go to a hospital to have the device removed. According to historians, we would have a lot more ancient Egyptian mummies intact today if so many of them weren't eaten during the Victorian era. People used to believe that the ground-up corpses of ancient Egyptians could cure different ailments. There's a room in the basement of Oregon State Hospital known today as the Room of Forgotten Souls. In 2004, hundreds of copper cans were discovered holding the remains of 3,600 mental patients who were cremated on site since 1917. Liam Ashley was a 17-year-old boy from New Zealand who had criminal charges pressed against him by his parents for using their car without their permission. His parents denied bail so that he would be sent to prison and hopefully learn his lesson. While being transported in a prison van, Morbid Facts, Part 214. Joaquin Phoenix's older brother River was a much bigger star than Joaquin in the 1990s. But in '93, the 23-year-old died of a heroin overdose while partying with members of the Red Hot Chili Peppers at Johnny Depp's nightclub on Halloween. Joaquin was the one who found River and called 911 for help, but it was too late. An award-winning middle schooler science fair project showed that on average, 70% of the ice found at fast food restaurants is dirtier than toilet water. In 1955, John Graham hated his mother so much that he hid 25 sticks of dynamite and a timed detonator in her suitcase before her flight. It was one of the first ever attacks of a commercial flight, and all 44 people on board were killed. In 2016, 23-year-old Colin Scott was trying to feel the temperature of a Yellowstone hot spring when he suddenly slipped and fell in. When his body was found floating later that day, the water temperature was measured to be right around boiling point. Emergency services were unable to retrieve Scott's body until the next day, by which point it was completely dissolved, leaving nothing but his wallet and flip-flops. Morbid Facts, Part 349. In 2013, Zac Efron was running through his house with socks on when he suddenly slipped. He smashed his face into the corner of a granite fountain so hard that it shattered his jaw and nearly killed him. He was immediately knocked unconscious, and when he woke up, part of his chin was hanging off his face. In response to more recent plastic surgery rumors, Zac claimed that his cheek muscles overgrew to compensate for the muscles that were permanently damaged from that injury. Union Army soldier Jacob Miller was shot in the forehead during the Civil War. Left for dead, he somehow woke up a few hours later and lived on for another 54 years. Mac Ray Evans was a serial killer who used to work for Caltrans throughout the 1950s and 60s. He'd bury his victims, who were mostly children, in places where he would later help build the highways on top of. Many of his victims were never found and are likely still under some of the California highways that thousands of people drive over each day. Morbid Facts, Part 427. In 1998, SNL star and renowned voice actor Phil Hartman was shockingly killed in his sleep by his wife Brynn. She then showed her friend the body, locked herself in a bathroom, and turned the gun on herself. Futurama's Philip J. Fry was named in honor of Phil Hartman, who was supposed to be the voice of Zapp Brannigan before he died. About 50% of panda births result in twins, but panda moms always focus on raising their strongest cub while letting the other ones starve to death. Therefore, zookeepers have to switch the cubs every few hours to trick the mom into caring for both. In 2019, a horrific bungee cord accident caused this Taiwanese man's iris to completely collapse. Morbid Facts, Part 658. On July 14, 2017, Chester Bennington appeared in a carpool karaoke episode with comedian Ken Jeong. In the video, Chester looks joyful and full of life, laughing, cracking jokes, and singing along to Linkin Park hits as well as popular songs like Hey Ya. The footage offers a bittersweet glimpse of a man who appeared to be genuinely happy just 6 days before he tragically took his own life. In 1993, a Mexican zoo official was arrested in Miami after trying to illegally purchase a live gorilla, only to discover the animal was actually an undercover agent in a gorilla suit. The operation was part of a federal wildlife trafficking bust and led to one of the most ridiculous arrests in American history. As a child in the Philippines, boxing legend Manny Pacquiao ran away from home after witnessing a horrifying act. His father, drunk and enraged, killed and ate the family's pet dog. Devastated, Pacquiao fled and began living on the streets, sleeping in a cardboard box and surviving by selling donuts and scraps. The trauma of watching that happen to his beloved pet pushed him into a life of brutal survival at just 12 years old, an early glimpse of the hardship and violence that would define his relentless drive in the ring. These are some morbid facts about Justin Bieber. The city of London, Canada, where both Justin Bieber and Ryan Gosling were born, used to have the highest concentration of serial killers in the world. When JB's mom, Patty Mallet, was a little girl, her 5-year-old sister was struck and killed by a car while she was crossing the street. Patty's childhood was riddled with sexual abuse as she went on to become a thief and drug dealer and once tried to take her own life. She survived but was admitted to a mental hospital and got pregnant shortly after her release. Due to her troubled past and young age, the 17-year-old was pressured by multiple people to abort the baby, but she refused. That baby was Justin Bieber. Diddy's 2 sons, Justin and Christian Combs, allegedly once ran a train on Justin Bieber while he was tied down and sobbing. A young girl who witnessed this happening is reportedly part of an upcoming lawsuit against Diddy. The rapper allegedly slapped her when she tried to loosen the straps on Bieber. A 42-year-old Russian fisherman was viciously attacked by a bear in 2014, but his life was spared when the ringtone his granddaughter installed onto his phone suddenly went off. Justin Bieber's song Baby miraculously sent the bear running back into the woods. Justin Bieber is the 5th most hated man according to a US poll that includes murderers. In 2013, a paparazzi photographer named Christopher Guerra was crossing a busy street to get better photos of Bieber's Ferrari when he was fatally struck by a passing car. Bieber later released a statement expressing his condolences to the photographer's family, while calling for meaningful legislation to protect the lives and safety of celebrities as well as photographers.